Welcome, dear viewers, to another heartfelt journey here on Mr. Magazine, the place where behind every glamorous smile, we uncover the real stories of courage, pain, and love that often remain invisible beneath the spotlight. Today's story is not about fame, nor about the glitz of red carpets. It's about the fragility that hides behind perfection, and how, in the quietest corners of despair, love can become the most unexpected cure. So before we dive into the emotional world of Cemre Arda and Gökberk Yıldırım, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and join our community to support Mr. Magazine. Because stories like this deserve to be told, with honesty, warmth, and heart. There are moments when the entertainment world, accustomed to light, applause, and performance, suddenly holds its breath. One of those moments arrived when Cemre Arda, an actress whose energy once seemed limitless, broke her silence. For months, she had hidden an illness that slowly transformed her body and her soul. What she revealed was not a press statement carefully crafted by a publicist, it was a confession that trembled with exhaustion and vulnerability. A revelation born not from vanity, but from truth. She wrote that she had been ill. That the unstoppable pace of fame had finally forced her to stop. And in that stillness, in that terrifying quiet where even the applause fades, she discovered who truly remained beside her. Among many names whispered in speculation, there was only one that mattered, Gökberk Yıldırım. It began quietly. A sense of fatigue that no amount of rest could cure. Shooting days grew longer, her laughter shorter, and her eyes dimmed in a way that makeup could no longer disguise. Doctors spoke with caution, that cold, rehearsed tone of those who carry both truth and empathy in their pockets. They told her she had to stop. To take care. To heal. But for someone who had built her identity around movement, the word stop felt like a death sentence. She had spent years running, from deadlines, from pain, from silence. And suddenly, she could run no more. One night, when her body finally surrendered, she realized something profound. The body screams when the soul is too heavy to carry its own silence. From that night on, Cemre's world shrank. Cameras were replaced by 4 drips, scripts by the steady rhythm of hospital monitors. Her mirror no longer reflected a flawless celebrity but a woman stripped bare of pretense, fragile, fearful, yet more alive than ever before. Her life now moved between waiting rooms and whispered prayers. But amid the solitude, one name seemed to echo again and again, Gawkberg. The man who had once shared her laughter and her heartbreak. The one from whom she had grown distant, tangled in misunderstandings and the glare of fame. And now, when her body betrayed her, his memory was the only thing that seemed to bring peace. Friends close to Cemre later confessed that during her darkest days, her healing didn't come from medicine alone. They said it was his silent presence, the love that asks for nothing but gives everything, that began to bring her back to life. At first, it was subtle. A bouquet of flowers with no name. A book left on the bedside table. Letters written in familiar handwriting, unsigned but unmistakably his. He didn't come for the cameras or the headlines. He came because she needed him, and because some promises, once made in love, never truly break. And as the days passed, her nurses noticed something change. Every morning, she would look out the window with a calm smile, as though waiting for someone. And she was. Because love, even in its quietest form, has a way of healing what science cannot. When Cemre was finally discharged, the entertainment world celebrated her return. But what no one could see was the transformation within. Her steps were slower, her smile gentler, her words softer. The woman who once fought to appear invincible now found power in her vulnerability. And beside her, walking not as a savior but as a partner, was Gökberk Yıldırım, the man who had chosen to love her in silence, away from the flash of cameras and the noise of speculation. This time, they didn't deny the rumors. They didn't confirm them either. They simply were. And that unspoken truth, that quiet unity, was louder than any declaration. Cemre later described her illness not as a punishment, but as a teacher. It taught her to recognize her limits, to cherish the invisible moments, and to appreciate the quiet strength of those who never walk away when the lights go out. In one of her personal journal entries, leaked by someone close to her, she wrote, "There are illnesses that only love can cure. Not because love is magic, but because the soul heals when it feels accompanied." Those words struck millions of fans. They resonated because they carried a universal truth, that healing often begins when we are seen, truly seen, by another soul. When the first photos of Gawkberg visiting her hospital room surfaced, the press went wild. Headlines screamed about miracles, reconciliations, and dramatic love stories. But the real story was quieter. It was about a man who chose presence over publicity. He didn't arrive with roses or grand speeches. He arrived with stillness. He would sit beside her, read while she slept, and hold her hand in silence. In that silence, something sacred returned, not passion, not fame, but peace. Sometimes, Cemre would wake and find him still there, his eyes heavy from sleepless nights. And in those moments, she realized that love, when it endures through sickness, becomes something purer than romance, it becomes devotion. As the tabloids buzzed with speculation, the love that saved her life, a miracle reunion, Cemre and Gawkberg said nothing. They didn't need to. Their silence spoke louder than words. Their fans, moved by the sincerity of their story, flooded social media with messages of affection, prayers, and gratitude. For once, the audience wasn't cheering for a film or a performance, they were cheering for real, imperfect humanity. Months passed. Cemre continued her treatments, though recovery came slowly. Some days were full of hope, others full of exhaustion. Yet through it all, one thing remained constant: Gawkberg's quiet loyalty. He never left her side, even when the cameras disappeared. And perhaps that was the truest form of love, not the one performed for an audience, but the one lived in silence, between two hearts that have already seen each other at their weakest. Her story became an anthem for resilience, a reminder that beauty doesn't fade when life grows difficult. It transforms. If you've made it this far, dear viewers, tell us, what do you think about Cemre and Gawkberg's story? Do you believe that love can truly heal? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the join button to support Mr. Magazine. Your support helps us keep uncovering the real stories behind the fame, stories of courage, redemption, and love. Today, Cemre Arda lives more quietly. She appears in fewer events, smiles more softly, and speaks with a serenity that only those who have known fragility can possess. Her illness, once feared as an ending, became a beginning, a doorway into a more authentic life. And at her side remains Gawkberg, not as a hero, not as a fairy tale prince, but as a human being who stayed when staying mattered most. Together, they remind the world that sometimes, the most powerful love stories are not written for the screen, but for the soul. And that, dear viewers, was the untold chapter of Cemre Arda and Gökberk Yıldırım, a story not of glamour, but of healing. If their journey touched your heart, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Mr. Magazine, and tap the join button to help us continue bringing you the real stories that move the world behind the fame. Because here, on Mr. Magazine, we believe that love, in its truest form, always deserves the spotlight. Until next time, stay kind, stay curious, and keep believing in the quiet miracles that make us human.